Doctor's warning. If you're 70 or 80 and still masturbate, I'm sorry to tell you 8 things. A. Let's talk. And I mean really talk. This might be one of the most important, uncomfortable, and surprisingly life-changing conversations you'll hear today, especially if you're in your 70s or 80s and still masturbating. Now wait. Don't click away. Don't feel judged. This isn't a lecture. This isn't about shame. This is about truth. This is about you. Because if you're still pleasuring yourself at this stage in life, first of all, let's be honest. There's nothing inherently wrong with that. You're human. You're alive. You still have urges, curiosity, and need. And let me say it loud. You have the right to feel pleasure, even now. But here's where I want you to pause. Take a deep breath and really listen with your full attention. If you're over 70 or pushing 80 and masturbation is still a part of your weekly routine, your nightly ritual, or even your daily habit, there are things you need to know. Not just about your body, not just about your heart, but about your mind, your emotions, your spirit, and what may be silently shaping your future without you even realizing it. This is a doctor's warning, but it's not just from science, it's from life itself. Because masturbation at 75 is not the same as it was, and the consequences, both physical and emotional, are different now. You see, in your youth it was a release. In your 30s and 40s, it may have been stress relief, or a way to connect with yourself. But in your 70s, what if it's become something else? What if it's a silent companion for your loneliness? What if it's masking emotional wounds you never addressed? What if it's triggering health risks you didn't know were connected? I'm not here to scare you. I'm here to wake you up, because you deserve more than secret habits and hidden shame. You deserve to live these years, your golden years, with clarity, joy, and purpose. Not locked in cycles of pleasure that leave you feeling emptier than before. And let me tell you something else most people won't say. You're not too old to change. You're not too old to rethink. You're not too old to look in the mirror and say, maybe I need to hear that. Over the next few sections, I'm going to break down 8 powerful, uncomfortable, and eye-opening truths about what masturbation might be doing to you, physically, emotionally, spiritually, at this stage in your life. Some of these truths might surprise you. Some might make you angry. 1 or 2 might hit a nerve, and if they do, I want you to sit with that. Don't push it away. Because this isn't about stopping for the sake of stopping. It's about understanding. It's about asking better questions. And it's about reclaiming a part of your life that deserves more than routine or regret. This message is especially for you if you feel tired or hollow after you finish. You wonder if something's wrong with your desire. You've noticed changes in your health that nobody talks about. You secretly feel guilty but don't know why. And even if none of that applies, you still deserve to know what your body, your brain, and your heart might be trying to tell you. So let's go there all the way. Let's open the door to the truths no one told you in your 60s. Let's talk about what really happens when you're 70 or 80 and still masturbating. Because someone needed to say this. And maybe that someone is me. Ready? Number 1. Your body has changed more than you realize. Look, let's not pretend we're still 25. You and I both know. The body that once felt invincible, vibrant, full of testosterone and vitality, has gone through some serious transformation. And yet many people in their 70s or 80s still approach their body like it's stuck in a time capsule. They think, if I can still get an erection, or if I still feel aroused, that must mean everything is working fine. But here's the truth. Just because the engine turns on, doesn't mean it's safe to drive full speed. Let's talk about what really happens to your body, particularly in terms of masturbation. When you cross that, hormones aren't what they used to be. Your testosterone, yes, even if you've stayed active, has likely dropped significantly. Estrogen and progesterone levels in older women plummet after menopause, often leaving behind a whole cocktail of side effects: dryness, reduced sensitivity, or even discomfort during stimulation. These hormonal shifts don't just affect your libido, they also affect your circulation, energy levels, nerve response, and emotional pattern. When you masturbate at 75, Your body's feedback loop is no longer primed for high-speed pleasure. It's operating slower, more cautiously, and with far more risks if pushed too hard. Prostate and pelvic health are fragile. For men, let's talk about the prostate, because chances are it's not the same as it was even 10 years ago. Do you experience hesitant urination, weak stream, post-ejaculation discomfort, feeling like you didn't quite finish? Those aren't random aging symptoms. They're signals, and ignoring them while continuing intense or frequent masturbation can make things worse. Too much pressure or frequent stimulation of the prostate can increase inflammation, worsen benign prostatic hyperplasia, BPH, and in rare cases, even accelerate latent conditions. And for women, aging brings similar sensitivity in the pelvic floor, muscles that weaken over time. Repetitive or forceful stimulation without proper care can lead to discomfort, micro tears, or pelvic floor dysfunction. Blood vessels and heart rate matter more than ever. Masturbation, especially if it involves climax, is not just a mental act. It's a full-body cardiovascular experience. Your blood pressure spikes, your heart rate accelerates, your breathing deepens. In younger years, that's no big deal, but at 70 or 80, with possibly thinner arteries or weakened heart muscles, that sudden rush of excitement, especially if it's paired with hidden stress, can be dangerous. There are documented cases of older adults suffering mini strokes, arrhythmias, or even cardiac arrest during or right after climax, alone in their rooms, no one around to help. And the saddest part, most of them had no idea they were even at risk. So what's the message here? No, this isn't about fear-mongering. It's about respecting the changes in your body. It's about treating pleasure, not like a race, but like a sacred ritual that deserves awareness, balance, and care. Because your body isn't broken, it's just different now. And once you honor that truth, you'll be in a much safer, more conscious space with your sexuality. But physical changes are just the beginning. Now let's talk about the emotional side. The one that no blood test or scan can measure, but one that affects your well-being just as deeply. Number 2, you might be masking loneliness, not fulfilling desire. Now, I'm gonna say something that might sting a little, but I say it with love and with deep respect for the human heart. Many seniors who still masturbate frequently aren't doing it out of passion. They're doing it out of loneliness. Let that sink in. Not lust, not fire, not wild, overwhelming desire, but emptiness, boredom, habit, a momentary escape from silence, the hidden companion of loneliness. It's 10 p.m. The TV's off. The house is quiet. Maybe you've been alone for hours or days, and you reach for yourself, not because you're burning with arousal, but because it's something. It's movement. It's sensation. It's familiar. That's not shameful. That's you. But here's the danger. When physical pleasure becomes a substitute for emotional connection, it's a slippery slope toward spiritual numbness. We start to trade real connection for dopamine drops. We stop reaching out to people and instead reach inward, not to heal but to hide. Masturbation becomes a sedative. At some point, the act shifts from being sensual to being soothing. You're not pleasuring yourself. You're sedating yourself. It's like a glass of wine for the lonely. It helps you forget the ache for a while. But when the moment ends, what's still there? The silence, the solitude, the unmet need. A story worth sharing. There's a man named Richard. He's 78, widowed at 71. He told me once, I thought I was still masturbating because I had needs. But when I really got honest, I realized I was trying to remember what it felt like to be loved. That broke me, because how many others are doing the same? How many are mistaking arousal for grief? How many are touching themselves just to feel something, anything, that reminds them they're still alive? There's a deeper desire beneath it all. You're not just craving orgasm. You're craving touch. You're craving warmth. You're craving someone to listen, to understand, to sit beside you and say, you matter. You're still beautiful. So if you're still masturbating often at 70 or 80, please ask yourself, am I truly hungry for pleasure or starving for connection? Because identifying the difference could change your life. And here's the good news. It's never too late to build new friendships, join a community, reach out to old friends, or even rediscover intimacy in a more soulful way. But none of that happens while you're hiding behind the comfort of solo ritual. Number 3. Overdoing it can damage more than your body. It can shrink your spirit. Let's get real. There's something deeper than muscle strain. Something more silent than heart trouble. Something more subtle than prostate pressure. And that's the shrinking of your spirit. Now I know, spirit isn't a word you hear in medical clinics. Doctors rarely talk about it. But you feel it. You know exactly what I mean. It's that invisible energy that makes you feel alive, inspired, powerful, joyful. It's the difference between existing and truly living. And whether you're 25 or 85, your spirit is the core of your vitality. But here's the hard truth. Over-masturbation can slowly drain that inner light. Not because the act itself is evil or wrong, but because of how you're doing it and why. The trap of compulsion in old age. You might think compulsion only happens to the young teenagers glued to screens, or 30-year-olds caught in endless loops of online content. But in reality, compulsion doesn't age out. It just wears better disguises. It shows up as routine, as this is just what I do before bed. As well, I'm not hurting anyone. But ask yourself, really ask, am I doing this because I want to, or because I don't know what else to do? See, when masturbation becomes habitual, not chosen but automatic, it becomes an emotional reflex. You feel bored? You masturbate. You feel sad? You escape into pleasure. You feel restless? You numb it out. And every time you do that, your brain gets a little more wired to chase easy relief instead of real growth. Dopamine without depth. Each climax delivers a spike of dopamine, the feel-good chemical. But when you get those hits without emotional meaning, without relational depth, without balance, your nervous system starts to depend on it. Over time, you begin to feel dull without it. You need more frequency just to feel normal. And eventually the pleasure that once felt vibrant becomes mechanical, even empty. This is the spiritual erosion I'm talking about. Your inner fire dims, slowly, not all at once, not in a dramatic way, but like a lamp that's turned down one notch at a time, until one day you're sitting in darkness and wondering when the light faded. You deserve richer joy. Look, I'm not telling you to stop. I'm asking you to reclaim your power, to remember that you're not just a body trying to feel, you're a soul trying to live. You're a spirit craving something deeper than friction and release. Because at this stage of life, real joy comes from purpose, presence, meaning, not just sensation. So if you've been stuck in the same loop, same time of day, same method, same dull outcome, ask yourself, what part of me is slowly disappearing through this habit? It's never too late to break the cycle. And your spirit, it's waiting to burn bright again. Number 4. It's linked to heart risk you might be ignoring. Now let's shift from the emotional to the medical. And this one is serious, because while most people think of masturbation as harmless, especially compared to other habits like drinking, smoking, or overeating, there's a hidden danger that becomes far more relevant after 70, and that's your heart health. Pleasure is a cardiovascular event. Let's not forget, an orgasm, even during solo play, is a full-body event. Your breathing quickens, your blood vessels dilate, your heart rate spikes, adrenaline floods your system, blood pressure surges, and then comes the crash, a sudden drop in tension and energy, sometimes with muscle fatigue and short-term lightheadedness. For a healthy young adult, this is no big deal, but for someone in their 70s or 80s, especially with a history of hypertension as atrial fibrillation, previous strokes, heart attacks, or even just elevated cholesterol, this sudden spike in cardiovascular activity can become a serious risk. A doctor's case, the unspoken tragedy. I spoke with a retired cardiologist once. He told me about an 81-year-old patient. We'll call him Mr. Green. Sharp mind, lived alone, reasonably fit for his age. One morning, Mr. Green was found unconscious in his bedroom. No signs of forced entry, no drugs, no external trauma. His heart had simply given out mid-climax. Alone, with no one to call, no one to help. The autopsy showed a burst blood vessel in his brain, a hemorrhagic stroke, likely triggered by the intense spike in blood pressure. The saddest part, he never knew he was at risk. He thought he was fine. But this happens more often than we talk about. Because it's taboo. No one wants to admit their parent, spouse, or friend passed away while masturbating. It's embarrassing. So the story gets swept under the rug. The warning is lost, but you deserve to hear it. Warning signs you shouldn't ignore. If you feel chest tightness or shortness of breath during climax, get dizzy after finishing, experience heart palpitations or irregular beats during stimulation, or feel drained and cold immediately after, that's not just part of getting older. Those are red flags, and they're your body's way of saying, hey, this might be too much. Get checked. Talk to your doctor. Yes, even if it's awkward, because prevention is better than tragedy. So what should you do? This isn't a call to celibacy. It's a call to awareness. Be mindful of your position, environment, breathing, and emotional state when you engage in solo play. Avoid holding your breath during climax. Don't strain your body. And most importantly, get regular heart checkups. Know your number, because the point of pleasure is to feel alive, not to flirt with death. And yes, you deserve pleasure that's safe, conscious, and sustainable. Number 5. Porn can quietly poison the soul in old age. Now this one is sensitive, and it might be the hardest to hear, but also the most important if you're really ready to look at your life with clarity. Let's talk about pornography. Yes, it's awkward. Yes, it's personal. But if you're in your 70s or 80s and you still use porn regularly, especially to masturbate, then we need to have an honest conversation. Because at this point in life, porn isn't just entertainment, it's shaping the way your mind and soul experience intimacy. The illusion that grows louder with age. When you were 20 or 30, porn was probably exciting, taboo, secret, maybe even a harmless thrill. But here's the catch. When you consume it for decades, it doesn't stay the same. It doesn't remain a tool for stimulation. It becomes a default fantasy world. One that's easier than real people, safer than vulnerability, and quieter than emotional effort. And when you're older, living alone, or disconnected from a partner, or craving any stimulation at all, porn becomes more than just visual arousal. It becomes a false friend, a silent addiction, a source of illusionary connection that slowly steals your ability to feel real joy. Your brain, a plastic machine that never stops changing. Here's what neuroscience tells us. The brain remains neuroplastic well into old age. That means it's always learning, rewiring, adapting. So every time you consume pornography, especially overstimulating, high-speed, modern internet porn, your brain gets another lesson. This is what pleasure looks like. This is what arousal requires. This is what men are supposed to be. This is what I need to climax. And over time, that wiring starts to erode your connection to reality. Real people don't look like that. Real sex doesn't move like that. Real intimacy doesn't sound like that. Real connection is slower, softer, more layered. But your brain, it starts rejecting the real in favor of the hyper-real. And by the time you're 75 or 80, you may not even remember what genuine skin-to-skin, eye-to-eye human intimacy feels like. Because porn has filled that space. The sole cost of consuming illusions. You see, porn doesn't just affect the brain, it affects the spirit. Because every time you watch another stranger, in another scenario, acting out another script, you're outsourcing something sacred. Your imagination, your desire, your capacity to feel and connect. It becomes transactional, empty, quick, disconnected. And worse, it slowly carves out a space inside you where nothing truly satisfies. Not a hug, not a sunset, not a kiss, not even yourself. Because your soul has been trained to respond to pixels, not people. You deserve more than flickering screens. You are not too old for love. You are not too old for beauty. You are not too old for slow, conscious, deep connection with yourself or with another human being. But none of that can exist while you're still feeding on fast food pleasure. So if this is hitting you hard, that's okay. It means there's still a part of you that wants more, that wants better, that remembers what it feels like to be present in your own body, fully alive, fully awake, without a screen telling you how. You don't have to go cold turkey overnight, but start noticing, how often do you use porn out of boredom? How often do you feel emptier afterward? How long has it been since you fantasized from within, not from someone else's script. Because detoxing from porn, even at your age, could be the most powerful step you take toward reclaiming your emotional and spiritual freedom. Number 6. It might be why you're still struggling to sleep, heal, or feel fulfilled. Let's talk about something we don't usually connect to sexual habits: sleep. And not just sleep, but deep rest, cellular repair, and that feeling of waking up refreshed, whole, energized. Because if you've been struggling to get good sleep, if you wake up more tired than you were the night before, if you toss and turn or rely on medication to fall asleep, you might be surprised to learn that masturbation could be playing a role. The cycle of restlessness. Many people, especially men, use masturbation as a nightcap. It helps you unwind, relax, and drift off. It seems harmless, even helpful. But here's the hidden trap. When you climax, your body does release hormones that promote sleep in the short term, like oxytocin and prolactin, but it also triggers a dopamine drop, and over time can dysregulate your melatonin production, especially if you're watching porn, exposed to blue light, and mentally overstimulated right before bed. So what seems like a calming ritual may actually be causing interrupted sleep cycles, shallow sleep, early waking, anxiety at night, hormonal imbalance. And you think, I'm just aging poorly. But in truth, your nervous system is being pushed in two directions at once. You're trying to rest, while also asking your brain to stay alert, excited, aroused. The healing you're delaying without realizing. Did you know that most physical and emotional repair happens during deep sleep? That includes cellular regeneration, memory consolidation, hormone balancing, emotional processing, cardiovascular recovery. So if your sleep is fractured, your healing is delayed. And over time, this contributes to chronic fatigue, brain fog, slower recovery, and even low mood or depression. If you've been feeling like your spark is gone, your motivation is dulled, your appetite for life is weakened, it may not just be it might be that your nighttime habits are stealing your restoration. A simple but powerful shift. What if just for a week, you tried a new bedtime routine? No screens after 9 p.m., no masturbation, gentle stretching, reading something peaceful, deep breathing or gratitude reflection. And instead of seeking pleasure as a sedative, you allow yourself to enter sleep as a sacred state of healing. You'd be surprised how quickly your mind clears, how your skin improves, how your thoughts become sharper, how your spirit starts to rise. Because true rest is more powerful than any moment of release. And your body, even now, is still capable of deep rejuvenation, if you let it. Number 7. Your partner may be silently hurting because of it. Let's pause for a moment. This one might not apply to everyone, but if you're in a long-term relationship, married or living with a partner in your 70s or 80s, this part is for you. And even if you're not currently in a relationship, listen closely, because this may explain why some past relationships faded, or why you're hesitant to open up again. Here's the truth no one likes to say out loud. Masturbation can become emotional infidelity, not because it's inherently wrong, but because it can start to replace what intimacy is meant to build. You choose the screen over me. I've heard this story too many times. A wife now in her late 60s tells me with tears in her eyes, he doesn't touch me anymore. He just goes into the bathroom at night, locks the door, and comes out quiet. I used to think it was about sex. Now I know it's about avoidance. And men say the same. She used to hold me. Now I feel like a ghost in my own home. She scrolls, watches things, disappears into her world. I don't know how to compete with what's on her screen. You see, when solo pleasure becomes the primary sexual outlet, it can quietly cut off emotional intimacy. You may still eat meals together, watch the same shows, sleep in the same bed, but underneath that quiet surface, there's a growing distance, a subtle grief, a sense of rejection neither of you knows how to talk about. You might not even know you're hurting them. The truth is, many older adults don't realize their private habits are creating pain for their partner. You might think, it's just easier this way. I don't want to burden her with my desires. She'll love him. I'm just not in the mood anymore. But behind those beliefs, there may be a partner who feels invisible, undesired, or discarded, not because of what you're doing in private, but because of what you're not doing in public. Touching, talking, reaching for them instead of only reaching for yourself, letting them see you, and wanting to see them. Intimacy is still possible, even now. You may be thinking, we're too old for that kind of passion. She's not interested. He wouldn't respond. But let me tell you something raw and real. Desire doesn't die. It just changes form. And it's not about sex at all. It's about being wanted. It's about being seen. It's about the tiny moments of affection that say, I still choose you. You still matter to me. You're still beautiful in my eyes. Even a gentle kiss on the cheek, a foot rub while watching TV, a long hug in the kitchen. These are the new languages of intimacy in later life. And when you restore those languages, you may find that both of you have more to give and receive than you ever imagined. So ask yourself today, has my habit created distance? Have I made her feel alone while lying next to me? Have I avoided vulnerability in the name of convenience? If the answer is yes, don't run from it. Sit with it. Then speak up. You might be shocked how much healing is waiting for a simple, can we talk? Because sometimes your partner isn't gone. They're just waiting for you to reach for them again. Number 8. But it's not all bad. When masturbation becomes mindful, it can heal. Now, after all we've said, the warnings, the risks, the emotional pitfalls, you might be thinking, so should I stop altogether? Is masturbation bad if I'm old? And here's where I want to flip the script. Because no, masturbation is not inherently bad. Not even at 80. Not even at 90. In fact, under the right circumstances, with the right intention, with the right awareness, it can become sacred. It can become healing. It can become beautiful. Let's talk about what that looks like. Pleasure isn't the problem. Disconnection is. You were born with the ability to feel, to be aroused, to connect with your body in ways that create comfort, joy, even peace. That ability doesn't expire when you retire. It doesn't vanish after menopause. It doesn't go away after a prostate diagnosis. It just changes. And when you learn how to approach masturbation with mindfulness, it becomes more than a habit. It becomes a ritual of self-love. The difference is this: how to turn a habit into healing. Here's a new perspective. What if the next time you felt the urge to touch yourself, you paused, you lit a candle, you breathed deeply, you touched slowly, you didn't rush, you didn't fantasize about anyone else, you didn't force climax, you simply connected to your body, to your breath, to your beating heart that has carried you for 7 or 8 decades. What if you allowed that moment to become a meditation, not to escape anything, but to come home to everything you are? That's not shameful. That's powerful. That's sacred. Your body is still worthy of reverence. The wrinkles, the soft skin, the changed shape, all of it is beautiful. All of it is worthy of gentle attention. So if you're going to keep masturbating, do it consciously. Let it be an act of gratitude, not habit. Let it be an act of presence, not escape. Let it be a celebration, not a substitute. Because you're not broken. You're still a living, feeling being. And even now, especially now, you deserve intimacy that honors who you are. Not who you used to be, not who you wish you were, but exactly who you are today. Conclusion. A new kind of intimacy begins here. So here we are. We've walked through 8 deep, raw, and honest truths about your body, your habits, your heart, and your soul. If you're 70 or 80, or even older, and you're still masturbating, let this message land softly but firmly in your spirit. You are not broken. You are not shameful. You are not too old for pleasure. But you are too wise for thoughtless habit. You are too sacred for routines that leave you emptier instead of fuller. You are too alive to spend the last stretch of your life sleepwalking through something as intimate as your own touch. Let's be honest. No one has these conversations with you. Not doctors, not friends, not even family, because our society is obsessed with youth and terrified of aging sexuality. So people either mock it, ignore it, or pretend it doesn't exist. But you exist. Your desires exist. Your loneliness, your routines, your quiet nights, your hunger for connection. They all still live inside you, and they're worthy of being seen with compassion, not silence. You have a choice now. You can keep doing what you've been doing. Same patterns, same late night scrolls, same emptiness afterward. Or you can pause, you can breathe, you can look at your life and say, I want more than a screen. I want more than a momentary fix. I want to be present in my own body again. I want connection. I want meaning. I want to love myself and maybe someone else with depth, not just stimulation. That choice is yours. And no, it's not too late. Intimacy isn't over. It's evolving. At this age, intimacy doesn't have to mean fireworks and fast passion. It can be slow. It can be soulful. It can be quiet. It can be as simple as placing a hand on your own chest and saying, I'm still here, and I'm still worth loving. So whether you continue to masturbate, or take a break, or let go of it entirely, let your motivation be truth, not avoidance. Let your body be a place of peace, not pressure. Let your habits reflect who you are becoming, not just who you've always been. Because the most powerful intimacy you can have is with yourself. The most healing pleasure you can feel is the kind that comes from being awake, aware, and fully alive. This isn't the end of desire. This is the beginning of a new relationship between your heart, your body, and your soul. So if no one has told you this yet today, you are still lovable. You are still beautiful. You are still worth slow, mindful, meaningful connection. And it all starts with one brave step, looking within and asking better questions than you did yesterday. Here's to your health, to your healing, and to a deeper kind of pleasure, the kind that never fades with age. Take care of yourself. You deserve it.